this took this to hear them, but I'm flattered. I'm delighted to be joined by a very dear friend to talk about him. He's one of the humblest people you'll ever meet, so I'm going to try to embarrass him here as I introduce him and throughout the discussion today. Shai is first and foremost an Israeli, born and raised in Jerusalem. He began his career like all Jewish Israelis as a soldier. He was like 4 years in the IDF as a tank commander was his ultimate rank, and sort of following that, he went traveling in South America and was drawn back to the military and actually was working for the defense ministry in New York, doing armaments, sales and other things. After that, he went on to study at Columbia Business School and pursued his sort of passion for business, and began his sort of illustrious career. He moved back to London. Shai worked for Morgan Stanley doing tech M&A. He also helped set up a venture capital fund office in London for JVP, Jerusalem Venture Partners. So again, Shai's lifelong love for technology and media and telecoms, and he was prescient enough to take on a role working for the cable company NTL, where he ran consumer products, and then that led to him masterminding the takeover of both Telewest and Virgin Mobile, that then he brilliantly rebranded into Virgin Media, and convinced Richard Branson to fund the whole merger and create Virgin Media as we know it today. Shai has been with Richard and the Virgin Group, ever since. He helped to start the Virgin Green Fund, which is a climate-focused investment fund, probably well ahead of its time to the mid 2000s, where he and I first worked together. And he joined the board of Virgin Atlantic in 2014, and took on the CFO role subsequent to that, and then became the CEO in 2019. Shai, in addition to Virgin Atlantic, is also a board member at Checkpoint Technologies, the Israeli security software company, where he's his close childhood friendship with the founder and CEO Gil Swed, led to them working together there. And probably more important than anything else, he is a diehard Arsenal fan, and we often go to Arsenal games together whenever we can. He reads the New Yorker cover to cover, and despite his age, still tries to play basketball. He has a brilliant and lovely wife, Ada, who's listening in, I hope, today, and two brilliant sons, Yuval and Yinon, who are all, it's a wonderful family, and we're very blessed to know them all. So without further ado, we'll get Shai to engage in a conversation. So let's start with today. Today is a very special day. It's sort of, as you pointed out to me, it's right between Hazikaron and Yom Ha'atzmaut. So the Memorial Day of almost 24,000 fallen soldiers and terror victims. Today and tomorrow, I'll see the Independence. I'm wearing my white and blue. As an Israeli, what are your reflections on this on this day?
Well, first of all, Toby, thank you for the introduction. No need. I'm used to much shorter ones. Anything will do. And just a few corrections. We bought arms in New York. We didn't sell to the Americans. We bought arms from the Americans. There was a big mission. There is a mission, a Ministry of Defense mission. I was lucky enough to get a job there in 1992. And we used the money that came in from the U.S. government to buy arms. And an arsenal, of course, is not the flavor of the year or the decade. So I don't know. I get so much grief for that. But today, look. I was an officer in the tank corps. I've seen, some bad instances, and anyone who's lived in Israel in our age knows people who have, sacrificed, lost their lives, paid the ultimate price. And regardless of the fact that we're here in the UK, for me it's a big day. Actually, today is a bigger day than tomorrow, or tonight. Tonight the celebration started. It's always interesting to see in Israel how the grief translates into a big party. Just literally tonight, right now. It's hard. It's significant. I'm not going to talk too much politics here. Israel is in an existential crisis right now, as much as we can see it. Fourth elections trying to form a government. There's some problems in the country, and hopefully they resolve themselves. But still amazed that 73 years have passed and this country is thriving and still a democracy, which is not something to be taken for granted.
And you've I'd love to hear. We'll get into Israel as well, and what kind of feelings it evokes for you. We'll maybe talk about that a little bit later. But maybe we'll start first with, you've had an incredible business career, over several decades, amazing achievements. As you look back and reflect on that, what are you most proud of, and why?
Well, first of all, I'm not it's premature. I just turned 53. It's premature for me to do summaries of my career. It's not that impressive.
Come on, you can try.
But I will try. I think undoubtedly and by the way, Rabbi, we delayed this conversation because I didn't feel it was appropriate to do so when we were at the heart of the battle last year. It was just impossible.
I agree. I know. Sorry, I wasn't laying it.
No. I'm just explaining why we're doing it right now. Because I think it goes into the answer of what's important. There is no doubt that this past, and for me, it's been now 15 months, have been the most challenging, humbling, difficult, terrifying, exhausting, and many, many other things of my career, my professional career. I've had other hardships like everybody else around the table. So I am most proud of the fact that we were able to ensure Virgin Atlantic's survival and save as many jobs as possible while keeping the spirit of our people and even keeping the spirit of our customers bruised but not broken. And we've done it in a way that even the people that have departed us, in the main, don't feel bad, and actually they feel that they've contributed in some way to something great. And while the battle is not over, and this is a battle for our survival, and we're still waiting for the opening of the skies, what we have accomplished was only the most immense teamwork, the sacrifice of very, very, amazing people, and so many of them, all about discretionary effort. I know we'll talk about our people, but our people and the team is at the heart of everything we do. And to see them pull together, and we say that we will never be united, or a company will never be more united than it was during the pandemic, especially if you're running an airline with no government support. So I've got to say that this, for now, is the thing that I'm most proud of. But there are many, many other instances, small and large, throughout life that I would capture. But right now, this is it.
Okay, well, we'll come back to the others. So help us bring some more color to what it was like to lead such an iconic brand during such a challenging period for the airline industry. How did you lead your people through this? I mean, what can we learn from leadership in a period of crisis like this?
Yeah, and we're So first of all, just to give a bit of context. For me personally, it started around the 28th of January, 2020. I was in the US in New Orleans in a board meeting for Checkpoint. And I got a few calls from my team telling me that, of course, things in China started to move, in Wuhan, of course. And our cabin crew and pilots started to feel nervous about flying into China. And, we cannot, health, safety, and security for an airline is the number one priority. And this is not lip service. This is truly what we start every single day and end every single night with. and it's a 24/7 operation. And I remember, this was the beginning of my second year as CEO. It was the beginning of my sixth year at Virgin Atlantic. I took a decision to come back home because for me, suspending the flights to Shanghai seemed to be the most enormous decision I would ever make running an airline. So I returned a day early, came into Heathrow. From Heathrow, took a car and came into the office in Gatwick, and we suspended the flights on February the 1st. So we were slightly ahead of the curve, as you would expect. Airlines are usually indicators of what is about to happen in the world in terms of economic activity and just hardships. And then, of course, things continued. The next big thing is I read the Ferguson article, the very famous Ferguson article that appeared in Lancet that predicted 250,000 to 500,000 deaths in the UK, explained the difference between elimination of a virus or a pandemic and a suppression. And I read it on a Saturday, and on a Sunday I wrote a piece of paper, which was, I like to do one-pagers, and I wrote what our plan would be for the next 6 to 12 months. And I concluded that we had to go deeper than anyone else, given the fact that our transformation had not been complete, our financial position was not as strong as our competitors. Yeah, so all the things that we did thereafter, I wrote by myself, for myself, on a one-page document, which I have for posterity with me for a long period of time, probably will carry with me forever. Now, throughout this, you learn about the power of teams. And everybody talks about the teams, the right people on the bus. Jim Collins put them on the. This was not possible without just the amazing people I have working at Virgin Atlantic with me, and who, went out of their way. I personally, my story is, for the beginning of this pandemic, I worked for 173 days straight, 18 hours a day, including Shabbat. Sorry. But the team, the discretionary effort that they put into this, and the people of Virgin Atlantic, this is a distributed company. We can never convene the company, right? Our place of work is a plane. Our unit of time is a flight. These people kept us going where they're on furlough. The biggest lesson I've learned throughout this crisis is trust. There was just too much stuff to do. And well, you know me better than most people. I know you know me better than most. There's nothing I don't believe I should understand or know or get involved with. It was impossible. And I basically had to decide where my time was better spent, which was mostly on the people side, but of course, creating the dimensions of 1.2 billion pounds privately funded solvent recapitalization. And the teams, we worked on people just basically volunteered within my team and teams, and everybody knew something about something. Refunds, for example, required a mammoth effort. We owed 600 million pounds to customers. We had no way of processing it, and we're working away from home. So trust is the number one lesson I will take, and I'll add one other dimension. People confuse my career as being about, people think I'm a micromanager, and actually I'm not. I'm micro-aware. So being continuously micro-aware versus micro-managing is something that liberated me. I know a lot of things about our company. I don't know everything, but I know a lot. And it's the knowledge that I can go up and down the stack and know where to focus is another thing that I've learned. And I'm not, so micro-aware, trust, and trust the team will be things that will be with me forever. Whether I work a single day ever is not important.
Look, that's sounds like, as we've spoken in the past, an incredibly intense experience that it's so many emotions for everybody. People's jobs were at stake. People lost their jobs. Customers were demanding refunds. There was a lot of financial distress. So it must have been very difficult as a leader. How did you hold it all together? I mean, you're obviously a Sabra. You're tough. You're strong. But
Well-
nonetheless, this is not, you know, you've got thousands of people you're responsible for here.
Well, okay. Look, it's multidimensional. But if I have to pick a few things, first of all, it's positivity and an immense belief in our capability to do this. Most people, including our shareholders, at times thought it was impossible. And for me, impossible, yeah, I don't really believe in impossible
Not in your
tasks.
vocabulary.
Yeah, but I recognize wholeheartedly this was very, very difficult to accomplish. So it's a tremendous belief in our capabilities to do this. Second is the belief that, you know, Virgin Atlantic deserved to survive. It is a good company with good people and great customers. And we provide great competition to our friends at BA. And it deserved to survive with or without support from government. But going back to the beginning, I had to, you know, this was going to require everything that everybody had. And I looked at myself and, you know, motivations for individuals are very simple. Money, ego are the ones that come to the top. And I decided that I was not going to do this for money or ego. Actually, I was the first CEO in the UK to lead the way in taking a drastic pay cut. So I took a 20% pay cut and was the first in the UK. And my entire team followed with 15% and the entire senior leaders group with 10%. So it wasn't about money, and I'll put ego to one side. The only thing that mattered to me, and still matters to me, is ensuring the survival of Virgin Atlantic and fighting for every single job. That's it. And I had a very simple mission. And when I found my peace with this mission, I can do anything. And the rest of it was, of course, you know, stamina, you know, training. I made sure I ate well. I have a great support system at home, you know, with a lovely wife that really makes it possible for me. The kids were supportive. I could basically be in my small room that I'm doing this call from, where I feel actually a haven in many ways.
Mhm.
I'm so used to it by now, and focus on what matters. And yeah, it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but it was. I certainly feel that this is where I could shine, and I feel fortunate that I'm the person in charge. I wouldn't wish it on anybody else. It's really not the sensations of, you know, firing thousands of people and letting them know in my own voice. We'll talk about that probably a bit later. Is there, but it's just a great belief, understanding what really motivates you, and recognizing that this is greater than you, and focusing on the things that you control.
Wow, lots of great lessons for all of us. I mean, you went through one of the greatest crises, certainly business crisis, that I hope that you'll have to face in your career. Won't be another one like this, but
I'm not doing another one, Toby. That I'm giving
you're not
you.
doing another. Okay, you'll pass on the next pandemic.
No, I'm resigning the minute it starts. Okay.
All right. So look, it sounds like you've taken it away and you've reflected very well on what you know, as you say, self-belief, trusting other people, and purpose. I mean, it sounds like things that really carried you through and carried everyone.
It's like no brainer. But you know, you touched about the Israeli. I think, you know, in this crisis, you know, I have all these stories. You know, they know I served in the military. I'm a tank corps. I was in southern Lebanon. I got shot at. I shot at. You know, that aura helped me a bit, I must admit. It you know, for the brand, in a crisis of this nature, when we all say that it's, as you know, from a business perspective, the only people who had it harder than airlines, of course, are hospitals and the frontline staff, for which we are not even comparable. So
Sure.
There's nothing to compare frontline staff in hospitals to what we did. But after that, we're probably there. So there was a bit of kind of this aura, you know, this the background helped a bit.
Yeah, no, that's. I've always been afraid, you know, of getting on the basketball court with you, or any other court with you. But you're a pussycat underneath the sabra. I know that part too.
All true.
And a great chef, which we'll talk about later as well. So, anything you would do differently, looking back, knowing what you know now?
you know, it's hard to look in the mirror and find things that we could done differently. But if I have to, if I actually, it's something that I would have done differently, not through the cycle, but before the cycle. You know, our cost base, and a lot of this is about business. I was a CFO, then I was a chief commercial officer, then CEO. As CFO, I came into Virgin Atlantic in 2014 and decided that our cost base was too high. And I said we should reduce the cost. And we reduced the cost dramatically. But in hindsight, I was not brave enough, smart enough, or insightful enough. And if I had done what we could have done, we could have transformed Virgin Atlantic earlier and be in a better position. So the next time I'm faced with a proposition, and there's always a reason why you can't do it. The unions, yourself, you know, it's just too harsh. Why would you? It's good enough. If you have conviction, sometimes you really need to go. And I didn't have enough conviction. But if I could have talked to myself in 2014, 15, and 16, I would have gone deeper and not accepted mediocre performance from a financial perspective as good enough. I'm never accepting it again. And I know that we've, out of this pandemic, we've done exactly what Churchill would have wanted us to do. We've used this pandemic to really create a better version of ourselves, which of course the world doesn't know about yet, but I can tell you it exists and it will prove itself. But going deeper, going farther, and not accepting your own limitations and mediocrity, that's what I would have liked to tell myself.
Your younger self. I hear you. Those are great reflections again. So maybe let's switch on to the more positive side. We have a lot of British Airways customers listening in today, and one of my goals before we finish up today is to convince them all that their Avios points are worthless and that they should just become loyal customers of Virgin Atlantic. So talk to us about the customer experience you offer. Why is it so special? You've been an architect of the fleet that you've redeployed of A350s and 787s and how they can transform flying. Just talk about what you've been doing for the customer and all the innovations that you've introduced to the airline since taking over.
Yeah, but maybe I'll start with actually the route to Israel, which we launched in September 2019. When
Sure.
we launched the route to Israel, we decided that since we are an inclusive company and equitable and just treatment of everyone is so important, we would do it in a unique way. And we did it a unique way for Israel. By the way, we used it for Pakistan. We've used it for new routes. And I'm sure some of you about 2.5 years ago would have seen our crews walking in Golders Green and going to the supermarkets. We did literally cultural understanding of what it means to serve the Jewish community on its way to Israel. And, the food was inspired by the good egg here in London. It was kosher good. The wine was the best kosher wine. And our crews, we had ambassadors who some of them were, people who, are in our crew, but are also Jewish and who volunteered to be an ambassador on that route. That's something that tells you that we took the customer journey. It's all about journeys to the next degree. Of course, we have the best kit in the sky and so forth. But it's this idea that we can do something unique on a flight to Israel to welcome the various, whether it's religious Jews, normal Jews, regular Jews, Arabs, or Muslims. Every single one of them is catered. I was on a flight once with BA before we flew to Israel. And when one of the things that they were doing was, which caught my attention, and BA is a good company. I have nothing bad to say about them, which is simply much better.
I do, but okay.
But what they were asking people in the economy class was, would you like pork or chicken with your eggs? That's when when you fly to Israel to do that, first of all, it's complete waste. Nobody's going to eat your food. And that just shows that they've just put the same cookie cutter approach on the meal into Israel. We offer hummus and pita, and you won't see pork on the flights and so many other things. Now, the fleet is amazing. By the way, the A339s that are coming in are super fantastic. And actually, for a post-pandemic environment where business is probably curtailed and premium leisure, we have the best premium product. And even in economy, we introduced 3 ways of flying, light, classic, and delight. So we have the most sophisticated economy offering. But the most important thing is when you are on a Virgin Atlantic flight, our people at least attempt to treat you with respect, with a smile, with a bit of character. And it's all because we want to be the most loved travel company, which is our vision, which is a 10, 15, 20, 30-year unachievable and unattainable vision. But that's what we want to become.
Fantastic. Well, look, I know you are a foodie, as we talked about. What do you normally order on the menu to Tel Aviv? And one of the things that Rabbi is keen to do is improve the whiskey selection as well.
Yes, he's got a very expensive taste. I'm not sure we can accommodate that. When I fly, the truth is I fly either early and I don't eat, and then if it's a nighttime flight, I don't eat. I'm not usually an eater on planes, just to be absolutely clear. But I do love when we get back to, by the way, all these meals are suspended for now, but they're getting back to normal operations. But we have very good hummus and pita, and we have shawarma, and we have some good things on board. And even the snacks are kosher.
Phenomenal. So, introducing a new route from London to Tel Aviv. I mean, it's not the obvious route you would, from a business perspective. I mean, clearly your bias and prejudice as to why you'd want to do it. But is there a strong business logic for opening that route?
No, it's all about me, Toby.
I just wanted to check.
Any airline boss that has sway in their company flies to wherever they want. They get to choose one route.
Yeah.
And since my family and friends, other than the friends here, are in Israel, I decided to fly to Tel Aviv. And I told that to the entire company. The only reason we're flying to Tel Aviv is because it's a very good route. Yeah. And we have tremendous connectivity. We have a joint venture with Delta and Air France KLM, and the connectivity from Tel Aviv onto New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Orlando is phenomenal. And it was just a shame that we had not realized that opportunity before. Of course, I was very pleased. It was a very proud moment for me to be on the inaugural flight with Richard Branson and arrive in Israel. That's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. But the joke, like I said, it's all about me and not about the money.
Well, I think it's great for BA to have competition. And I mean, El Al, we won't even mention how poor their service is.
El Al is, transforming itself radically right now.
Well, I assume your mother was very proud. Did she fly with you?
She didn't fly, but she went to there was a big party, probably the last party of its kind, given the situation in the world. But there was a big party. She was there. She spoke to Richard. Richard's father served in Israel in the time of the British occupation, when the Brits were in Israel. Sure. So she had a lot to talk about. My mother was born actually in the UK, but her family is from Holland. And one of my colleagues is a Dutch guy, so she spoke to him in Dutch. She had a blast.
Amazing. I love your mother. So talking of Richard, how involved is he in the airline? Share with others listening in, and how often do you speak to him, and what's he like to work with?
So first of all, look, what an amazing guy, right? An amazing guy with absolutely a nose for the zeitgeist, a risk taker like there is no other. He'll put it all on red if he feels lucky. And he wouldn't think twice. Now, of course, he wants to rig the system to make sure that he wins, but the most competitive guy. Look, first of all, it's an interesting one. Not all companies did Richard Branson run. He ran the airline. But he does not know more about Virgin Atlantic than our team, and he does not run things. And especially during this pandemic, at some point last year, we moved from like once a quarter board meetings to every week, sometimes twice a week board meetings. Most companies in crisis did that. I know BA did the same thing as well. And Richard, as you know, does not participate in board meetings, but this time he did. And he was actually a very good board member. He asked the right questions and he was supportive. And at the end of the day, he put his money where his mouth is and supported Virgin Atlantic with a very big check, actually 2 checks already. So look, he now knows that the team that runs Virgin Atlantic is the team. I am the CEO. Only once did I tell him that if he really wants his job, he can have it. But if not, he's got to trust me to do my job. But we talk quite a lot. I don't usually call him. I wait to be called. We talk about many, many things. The pandemic, the vaccines, ideas. This week was about St. Vincent. Can we help the community there given the volcanoes? What do I think, about the vaccinations? What did we learn from Israel? Blah, blah, blah. But it's a very fluid conversation. But at the end of the day, I think he trusts Virgin Atlantic, and even more so after the last kind of 15, 16 months.
It's amazing to hear how supportive he has been involved. I mean, it was always his original passion project, after the magazine. And I always remember the founding story of Virgin Atlantic when he used to walk around Miami airport trying to get people to join his charter plane.
That's right.
First flight.
Yeah, I still think that his number, he's got a lot of passions, Galactic and Orbit and whatever. But I think deep down, the thing that he still, I've got to believe it, the thing that really still matters the most is Virgin Atlantic. 36 and a half years ago, it was invented on June the 22nd, a flight from Gatwick to Newark. And my job, our job, is to ensure that we'll be here for the next 37 and a half, 36 and a half.
Sure. Well, please God, as they say. If there are any questions from the audience, please drop them in the chat and we'll be happy to pick up on them. Moving on, just to talk about I think we'll get on to how things are going to open up and your views on that. I'm sure everyone's excited to start traveling again. But yeah, actually, maybe let's do that. Get people excited about what the future holds for us in terms of freedom to fly and testing and taking holidays. I'm sure everyone's excited to get on a Virgin Atlantic plane.
And maybe I'll just, Toby, if it's helpful, maybe I'll just kind of just give a scene setter, because there's a lot of information. I'm not sure everybody totally gets everything that has been announced by the government. But
Sure.
last Friday, we had clarity, a bit of clarity. So first of all, May the 17th is the next day, of course, after April the 12th, 5-week period. We'll hear if international travel can resume at scale, i.e. there is no need for a valid reason. I still believe that's possible. A traffic light system was adopted very much at our, we've been working hard on ensuring the government understands that, but that's good. But the government did not go far enough in really benefit, in my view, our view, the industry view, going far enough in terms of taking the advantage of the amazing and tremendous progress in the UK in terms of vaccination. So there is a red, amber, green system. Red, upon arrival in the UK from a red country such as South Africa, 10-day hotel quarantine, test on 2 and 8 for release. The big news is that there is an amber country, which is basically the same system as today, a pre-departure test with what is called lateral flow, so the cheaper version.
Sure.
On arrival back before departure to the UK, the same thing. And then again, your 10-day home quarantine, but you can release yourself on day 5 with an extra test beyond day 2 and 8. And
PCR test.
Yeah, and the big news is green countries, that you only need to do a pre-departure test before you leave, a pre-departure test before you come back, and you need to do a day 2 PCR test for the purpose of genomic sequencing in the UK, which is basically finding variants of concern. In my mind, and I've reconciled to myself that I need to fight our corner. The scientists can, by the way, everything I'm saying is based on science. We've commissioned so much work. The scientists should argue their caution, and then the politicians should decide. In my mind, flying to a green country, anyone should fly without test and quarantine. If you come back, if you fly to an amber country and you're vaccinated, no test, no quarantine. That's the way it should be. And I have I'm pretty sure we'll get there at some point in time, absent new variants of concern that evade the vaccine program. So I'm sure you've seen, well, those of you who follow Virgin Atlantic would have seen that I was all over the press last week, promoting this position. It's a big, this is all in the realm of public relations and the population. So if I were you, I would assume that you could probably be vacationing this summer in certain locations. And if you can absorb a quarantine period, then there will be a plenty of them. But for us, Israel, the US, and the Caribbean should definitely be on the green list.
It's very exciting. And Lewis is very keen because he's about to book a trip. Do you think at the 21st of June, end of all restrictions is going to happen?
Well, look, based on the figures and the data that we have, it seems like it, right? The vaccination program is continuing well. The cases are going down. The variants of concern, despite what was happening right now in Lambeth, is very, very minimal. And we have, and more science that is done, it seems that the vaccines that we are using are effective against those variants. So yes, I think so. The problem was, of course, for those who are not married to Americans or are Americans, flying to the US, of course, is prohibited for UK nationals and Schengen nationals under what is called Proclamation 212F, which needs to be repealed, which I'm hopeful will happen either between Memorial Day, which is 31st of May, until July the 4th in the US, which we will call Freedom Day. So we're hoping that happens. But I think things are moving in the right direction, but we've got all to push for this to happen. It's a liberty. By the way, it's not a God-given right to travel. And we're all focused on this line, probably on leisure. My focus also is business. In a post-pandemic, post-Brexit world, island nation, aviation and its affiliated industries, 500,000 jobs per day, 23 million pounds per day will be lost in GDP for any day of delay of opening the US-UK border. That's a lot of money. 1 in 10 jobs in the world are aviation and tourism related. I mean, let's go.
Compelling. I'm ready. I'll tell Sharon. So vaccine passports, question from Adrian, who's a very loyal Virgin Atlantic flyer.
Thank you,
What's your
Adrian.
view on them? Do you have a view on vaccine passports? Do you think they're necessary?
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear the question for a second. Yes. Look, first of all, we're trialing. We were supposed to trial this Friday, our first trial to Barbados, but Barbados flights have, of course, aviation. We have problems. Now there's a volcano in the Caribbean, of course, terrible for St. Vincent, but also means that we can't fly right now to Barbados. And we're going to do humanitarian aid, and we're going to do all the things that we can, cargo, as we usually do for countries where we can help. But yes, I do think that if you go to an airport, most of us have not been to airports, but if you go to an airport, it's going to take you 3 to 4 times to actually book, to actually check in, because there is a passenger locator form. We have to check if you've been vaccinated or if you've taken the test and blah, blah, blah. So there is the technology. We're doing this with IATA, which is the industry body. We're doing this with our partners, Delta. We're multiple apps, and we are ready to, of course, right now we already assist you. If you need to do a test, we'll tell you where the location of a test that is verified is applicable. And when you've been tested, it should upload the test verification into the app so that we can see that you're green to go. We can do the same thing for vaccinations.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to accept that this regime will be with us for a few years, not between the US and the UK, but we need the world to be vaccinated and free. So travel to India or China when it resumes, you're going to have to fill it. So I just don't see how it's possible to do it all manually. But there's a huge pushback, of course, in the UK, with, I don't call it passports, I call it digital health pass. We remove the word passport away from it. We are not a passport provider.
Sure. There's a lot of libertarians here who
That's fair enough.
want the passport. Other questions from the audience. Rabbi's keen to hear about electric planes. What's your view? Do you see them coming?
Okay, so I'll give you electric planes, transatlantic, not probably in most of our lifetimes. And I'll explain the science behind this. Battery energy storage, and Toby knows this, we know a bit about this, the ratio of storage in a battery versus fuel, 1 to 45. So imagine the size of an engine, take that engine, multiply it anywhere between 35 to 45 times to do a battery stack that flies, you can't take off. So electric planes across the Atlantic, I don't see it in the next 20, 30 years. Now, vertical takeoff, chopper replacement, 6 people, this distance, absolutely.
Short flight, short.
And we're looking at vertical takeoffs, which is basically a competitor to helicopters, which is much cheaper and environmentally friendly. Why can't we have people coming into Gatwick and to Heathrow quickly so we can take them there? And in aviation, we didn't talk about sustainability. The biggest thing that we need to do is sustainable aviation fuels. Not out of food crops probably, but out of waste and out of synthetic materials. That's where the big innovation on planes is. And the biggest thing that airlines should be doing in the short term is buying new planes, replacing all their 4 engines, which has happened with newer technologies, which improve fuel efficiency by about 30% versus a 4-engine plane.
Fantastic. And then I have to ask this, but Israel has gone from startup nation to vaccine nation, is a phrase I got from an Israeli I spoke to today. What lessons do we have? What can we take from Israel? You mentioned you talked to Richard about it as well. What lessons can we draw from how well Israel's handled this?
Look, actually, Israel is not dissimilar to the UK. I think many people want to hear what I have to say about the government's handling of this crisis, given the fact that I've had a front row seat, not by design, by virtue of their circumstances. And I say everyone can do better, but I'll talk about Israel. Maybe it's an easier way. The handling of the pandemic was terrible, completely terrible. Not science-led, faction-led, politics-led, but and just as in the UK, the vaccine effort, so not a single source, you're an investor and you have a portfolio, and we all understand that you should not bet only on red. So betting on a basket is a good thing. Sometimes paying more is cheaper. And so paying more to Pfizer upfront means that you're opening earlier, meaning that your GDP recovers earlier. So I think the lessons there are bold decisions, but I don't think, and it is the salvation, but in the UK, we're still paying the price that our death and morbidity per capita is one of the highest in the world. So this vaccine is a great way out, but it does not undo the tremendous impact on lives and livelihoods in the UK. And for that, no good at the back end can undo the harm that has already happened to so many.
Sure. Well, there's many more questions on the pandemic, but I want to move on to talk more about you. We have 10 minutes. So I want to move on to the next question. Just, your mother was born in Britain. You were born in Israel, but you've lived, most of your life, the majority of your life in Britain. Now, do you identify as British or Israeli or both? Or what is
both? First of all, I think I'm okay. Look, at the core, I'm Israeli. You cannot undo my first 24 years, the smells, the Jerusalem, the where I grew up. Okay, that's inside. I'm probably that. But my home is the UK and London. I love it here. I love the people. I love this country. And I think since a very young age, I wanted to be a citizen of the world. I happen to be a citizen of 2 countries, which I love dearly. Right now, I'm not in love entirely with Israel, but but neither am I in love entirely with the UK. So both can do better, and I hope they will. But I feel, yeah, I feel comfortable in both places. If you ask my kids, who were born here, go to school here, they speak both Hebrew and English, I think they also say that they are both, but probably a bit more UK
Mhm.
or British.
And do you think about what, what each country gave you and to contribute to identity? How do you think each prepared you for life and for the business, career that you've had?
Well, look, preparation for life was in Israel. That's where, all my formative years were there. But I've learned so much working abroad, and I've learned so much working here in this country. Um, and I think I can bring both. I know it's, for you it's hard to believe, but I've mellowed a bit. I've become a bit more patient. I love cues and lines, and
No.
and I love them by now. So the civility and the inherent liberalism here, the fact that democracy is really, this is the heartland of democracy, which is an important element of how I define myself. The movie, the drama, the theater, I've learned how to absorb it all and become better for what I brought to this country. So I think if I couldn't work right now in Israel, I never want to work there. All my bad traits will amplify, and here they've been kind of dociled and refined by the environment and the colleagues that I have here.
Wonderful. I mean, what can we learn from you? I mean, how do you stay? Well, I mean, you weren't always this calm and relaxed and
I am not
cover
calm.
of cues. And what's happened? Is it just age, or there's some things some advice for all of us who are still aspiring to be the Zen master that you?
I am not, no, let me just, I am far from it. And these are small incremental changes, nothing to change. Look, age, of course, comes with it, experience, comfort with oneself, and a tremendous amount of reflection. Just understanding that, yeah, we're all vulnerable, we're all human beings. We're good at some things and very bad at others. And it's okay. It's just the way it is.
Sure. What still motivates you to work? Tell us about that, and maybe also reflect on what remaining goals you have in your business life and on your personal bucket list as well.
Yeah, I'll start with my personal bucket list, and you know what it is. I want to run Arsenal. I think I can do a better job than the current regime, and I've always wanted to do that job, and I'll take a pay cut to do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're really not Arteta. Arteta, I think, is a fine manager, but the whole infrastructure, the Kroenkes, the way they're running the club is not very good in my mind. They lack a vision and a purpose. So I'd like to do that. That's my bucket list.
Lewis is working on that for you. He's going to put the money up.
Yeah, and that'll be very good. Thank you. And in terms of what keeps me going, my motivations are internal. I always believe I can, but this is the fault of the situation. I just feel that I can do better and learn more and quench my curiosity to learn another thing. And I'm not even starting to think about, I've got many, many years to go. I'm not, I have no aim of taking a back seat, of slowing down. That's all foreign to me right now.
Oh yes, I've got your next role for you when you're ready, as you know.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm fully engaged right now, but maybe in the future.
Sure. Well, I know there's one very burning question that people have that I think I have to ask you, which is, when will Israel allow tourists to enter?
Well, they've, as of this month, they're allowing now 30 groups to come into the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, look, Israel, I think it's closer than people estimate. I expect sometime, if the UK moves on May the 17th to international travel, Israel will be on green and the UK will be on green. So I think one of the first countries to go will be Israel. And so I'm expecting May. And if things continue to progress well, 17th of May may be possible. we were going to, and now I'm going to put a bit of a plug in. We were going to increase our frequency to 2 times a day to improve the schedule that we provided your mother. Sharon's mother. When that was not convenient. So 2 times a day. And I expect that to be happening in May. By the way, the flights are already getting booked, and people are flying right now to Israel.
Yeah, it's not citizens only.
No, yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Well, let's just end on what's your favorite meal to prepare? You're a big chef. I enjoyed some of your wonderful cooking recently. What's your favorite meal to prepare?
Lately, in the last few years, it's baking my sourdough. It's a 24-hour process. It's it's very, very slow. It requires very simple interventions, and what comes out of it is quite amazing. So I still like the sourdough. I make a sourdough focaccia as well, so I can do 1-on-1. That's always a good combo.
That's a meal in and of itself.
It is with butter and great cheese. What else do you need?
Some wine, but yeah, I think it's pretty good. I'll take it. Amazing. What didn't we talk about that we discussed before? Anything else you want to say?
Just thank you for the opportunity to speak to the shul, and I know it's such an important part of your lives, and that's important to me. So what a great opportunity, and keep the faith, and don't forget that tonight is Yom Ha'atzmaut. It is a big day. It is a miracle out there in the desert, and we should do everything we can to make it a better place.
Amen. Rabbi, any
Thank you, Toby. I really, really appreciate it. It was very insightful, funny, interesting. Every moment of it was absolutely great. Thank you so much, both of you. And L'chaim, obviously, to end. And thank you for the drasha about the Munah at the end. I appreciate that. If you ever want to do a Friday night gig, you're welcome to do it instead of me. Thank you.
A traditional secular Jew. Yeah, the combination.
Amazing. Thank you, Shai. That was
guys. I'm just going to upload very quickly our next speaker, which is next Wednesday night. Just going to share the details, and you can all join. Which is Dean Furness. I just put the flyer here, and you'll get an email about it this evening. This is a paraplegic who's a very inspirational, motivational speaker who has done many marathons in his wheelchair, as well as millions of views. And if you look at his talks on YouTube and TED, really an amazing speaker. And also tonight, I'm going to release a new speaker list where we've got a few incredible people like Shai who are going to be joining our community to share their wisdom, their insight, and inspiration to us. But as for now, have a wonderful night. Laila Tov, and thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Shai.
Thank you, Toby. Thank you, Sharon. Bye.
Bye.